Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Alpine Esports Series powered by Binance. And not just anyone, it is round 2, as we of course just had a round 1. I'm here together with Chris Haye. Now Chris, round 1 was quite a shocker to start the season already with, right?
Yeah, well, as with last year, we had really great close racing throughout the field. We've got lots of very fast guys here, lots of very competitive esports racers who are used to battling out in some of the fastest cars, some of the twitchiest cars, some of the, dare I say it, the biggest aero cars in the world. And here they are in this traditional Alpine sports car doing proper door-to-door racing, and it produces some of just the most wonderful battles.
Oh, for sure. Now, wonderful battles is what we are looking forward to today. Now, today, of course, we have Paul Ricard coming up as round 2. Of course, a second round out of 3 rounds. Now, shortly, we will look towards the whole event setup. So, what is going to happen today? The sprint races, the full races, the qualifications. But all the drivers, as we speak, are getting ready. Today, we have like a 30 drivers in the pro category, and then 5 as well in the guest today, which we'll show in a little bit. But this is the event format. We have a sprint race coming up of 15 minutes, and then the top 10 gains points. But for the main race, we'll have 25 minutes and a traditional format in terms of points gained from P1 all the way to the top 10.
Yeah, we found last time out that qualifying for the sprint race was really important. It's a short format that's actually going to be slightly changed for this time. We'll get to that later. We have 5 guests. In fact, we have 4 because Johan has had to pull out at the last minute. We've got Anna on air, who was here last week for the first round. We've got Ollie Caldwell, the Formula 2 driver, Ethan Patterson, the F1 Twitch streamer, and Isaac Gillison, who, well, should be fairly well known to anyone that follows esports as potentially one of the fastest drivers across all of the platforms. So definitely one to watch out for. Those AMs aren't going to be scoring points in the main series because they are here just as invited guests, but expect him to be mixing it up at the front. Now, Paul Ricard, perhaps not the favourite circuit of many Formula 1 fans, but as a driver's circuit in a nice moving around sports car like this Alpine, it's absolutely fantastic. We have the longest straight probably on any calendar outside of Le Mans, and some of the fastest corners you're likely to expect. So this is going to be a challenge, Thom.
For sure, and actually last year we did this race as well in the Alpine Esports Series, and of course I raced in it, and I actually quite like the Paul Ricard track with these cars. Especially the last sector, it's super hard, especially when the tires start wearing a little bit more. You're gonna start sliding, and you'll see the drivers have a little bit more tough experience with the car, and I think that's where the differences will be made as well. Now, you mentioned, right, Isaac as the 5th guest today, who I actually battled with last year too, and he was mentally quick, so we'll see him probably battle with the other drivers too, the pro drivers. Now, of course, Barcelona was round 1. Today, Paul Ricard for round 2, and round 3 is defined, or to be defined, by the fans on June 23rd. Now, if you want to go and vote on which track that will be, check out the links that will be in the chat, and check out the Alpine Racing Twitter. Over there, you can go and vote for round 3, the track. It's either Hungaroring, it's either Silverstone, or it is Nürburgring. Now, Chris, which one of those 3 would you most like to see?
Unpopular opinion here, and I think any F1 fans will probably lynch me right now, but I can tell you the Hungaroring is brilliant in GT4 cars. Now, I think it doesn't provide the best racing in the super fast high aero cars because they can't follow each other, but you don't have that problem in these, as I say, sort of traditional European sports cars. And yeah, we did a league race there last week, and the battles throughout the field were fantastic. So I want to see Hungaroring.
I remember last week you were actually joking about Hungaroring, and you actually didn't want that one to happen. Now that you had a league race, you do. So I mean, I reckon honestly, all 3 tracks, in my opinion, would be awesome. But I mean, I wouldn't mind Hungaroring either, to be honest. But let's see what the viewers think, because those are the ones that are going to be deciding. Now, the car that we're driving with today is the Alpine A110, a very light car, but a very quick one. 30 pro drivers that have qualified from a time trial challenge are battling for the top, and for big prizes. Now, today we have 4 drivers from the AM category, friends of Alpine and special guests, which Chris has actually just named up as well. We'll be driving in these sexy cars who have a lot of different liveries from all the partners, including for the guest drivers, the Alpine Esports livery. So if you see the Alpine Esports liveries driving out on track, those will be the ones from the guest drivers. Now, looking at the guest drivers so far, Chris, who do you think is going to be maybe a dark horse? Because we mentioned, right, Isaac Gillison is going to be quick, right? We know he's an esports driver. But anyone else? Maybe Ollie Caldwell, of course, a driver in Formula 2.
I think Ollie Caldwell, you'd be very silly to write him off. I don't know about his sim experience. I'm sure we're going to find out very shortly. But the reality is, if you're mixing up in Formula 2, you know how to drive a car, don't you? And obviously, Ethan is a long-time Twitch streamer in the F1 games. Be interesting to see how that translates across to ACC as well. So lots to watch out for in that category tonight.
For sure. I did see them joking yesterday with each other, both Ethan and Ollie Caldwell, about them being off the pace by 6 seconds, 7 seconds. But let's see how much it is going to be. I expect them to be maybe a little bit down on the pro drivers, because they've been battling and practicing for the past couple of weeks, in between, of course, round 1 and round 2. And I expect them to do so all the way until round 3 as well, because, like I said, there's big prizes up for grabs. And we'll get to them a little bit later on as well. But I guess it's time for us to go and check out the highlights of round 1 around Barcelona. But here we go then, green light for the first race of the Alpine Esports Series powered by Binance. In their first turn, it looks like there has already been an overtake as they go side by side into the first turn. My good and yes, going super wide, too wide over the curbs and being overtaken. Squeeze a little bit to the inside by Koen, but Koen decides to go to the outside to get a little bit more of a turn in right there. However, James has the position. Oh no! Little bit of a tap.
Optimistic, didn't it? And it proved to be so. That was very late move.
Look at that! So many cars super close, 3 wide even through the first turn, and then up the inside there for the red car.
That is the closest of margins that you could hope for. 0.3 of a second almost feels a bit luxurious at this stage. Great drive though from George Boothby. Baldwin already gaining an advantage as the lights go green. Payich looking like he got the better run off the lights though. Can he repeat what happened to him in race 1 and run round the outside into turn 1?
And it's going to be 3 wide there. No way that's going to work.
Oh dear, that's Matthias Kuhn again, who twice during the previous race at that particular corner lost a position by trying to gain a position. This time
there is some fighting going on.
Yeah, it's looking pretty busy there for Jimmer and the various cars around him as we see him working the wheel.
Mayhem.
Wonderful camera view there as we saw the very late braking moment with the VR headset view on the right hand side.
What a beautiful move.
After that was beautiful textbook stuff. Little bit of a touch there, but I'd call that friendly.
As we have a huge battle here, and it's actually going to be Miato being overtaken by Nikolai then. But he re-overtakes him with a switchback.
Excellent race from James Baldwin. The sort of thing we've come to expect from him, Thom.
Well done to him. Going over the line here then, showing his victory celebration. All right, here we are then. After what was an amazing first round, we can only look forward to as close as an amazing round for round 2 as well. Now we're looking at in the background at Paul Ricard, and it's raining at the moment. But the question will it be raining in the sprint race, in the qualifyings? That will be crucial because around Spain normally, of course, less rain. It's a little bit hot. The temperature is normally a little bit more hot, but in Paul Ricard, it's going to go all the other way around. So let's take a look and see what will happen in a little bit. Now, you saw the championship standings very shortly too. Of course, James Baldwin came out of nowhere after the first race, doing super good, and actually currently is the championship leader after round 1 here with Marko Pejic in P2 with 26 points, so there's only 3 points to spare between those two, and George Boothby in P3, who is currently actually feeling a little bit sick. So that's actually going to be very, very important today in the championship. Will he be able to even drive? And if so, can he perform like he has done in the first round 2? If he can't, then this is going to be crucial for his championship chances, right? Because if he can't, there's only going to be one more round after this, and it will be very tough. Now, a little bit more of a bigger gap to P4, Andrea Miato and Luke Whitehead, who has also had some incidental shines through the field, with Michel Nurby in P6 and Victor Nicolay, who has come from last season's Alpine Esports Series 2, doing pretty decent in P7, with Michael Romagnoli P8, and then Davide Arduini and Matthias Kuhn is going to round off the top 10. Now, looking further down the grid, we are looking at the last point scorer in Gail Valero, as we look all the way down to Johan Bergara in P30. And that is the top 30 drivers for the P11 to 30. So that's going to be the last P11 to 20, and then P21 to P30, we have Johan Bergera and all the way up until Manuel Rodriguez. But remember, we can maybe even see a grid full of point scorers at the end of the championship, because there will be points to score in the next 4 races, because of course we have 4 races left in the championship still. But
I think this is all about consistency, Tom. We had excellent drive from several drivers that are keeping them in contention. We saw Miato there in 4th place, looking very quick in the wet here at Paul Ricard. So I think we got a lot to go. And frankly, they're playing for some pretty big prizes, Tom.
They are. Now let's get to the prizes then, because of course the Alpine Esports Series powered by Binance can't go without some pretty huge prizes, and this time around they are pretty huge. Now, starting off with the Binance prizes, we actually have $100,000 in prize money coming from Binance, with the first, the winner of the championship getting 40,000 Alpine fan token all the way up until 10th place. And then looking further down, Binance fastest lap award actually gets $1,500 in Alpine fan token 2, with the fastest in-game qualifier lap getting $1,500 in Alpine token 2. Now, a little bit further down, the other Binance prize money is $10,000, $6,000 Alpine fan tokens for new Binance users who scan the QR code. So make sure throughout the streams, when the QR code pops up, make sure you go and scan it, and then you're going to be able to win or be able to have a chance at winning too. And 4,000 Alpine fan tokens prize pool for those who collect all 5 POAP NFTs. And then there was some other prizes as well, right, Chris?
Yeah, well, we're just having a look at some of our drivers on their various cam feeds that we'll be seeing throughout the broadcast tonight. In addition to the $100,000 prize pool for the top 10, first place will gain a drive in an Alpine GT4, as did the winner last year, a guy called Jardier, but I've never heard of him, so we don't need to worry about that. Philips Hue have supplied some lighting bundle. Freem have been supplying esport gloves and shoes, and correction lenses by Shamir. Second place will be getting a Track Racer TRX rig, Philips Hue lighting, and some Freem esport gloves. And third place, BenQ have provided an excellent curved monitor. Philips again with a Hue bundle, and Freem with their gloves, as well as the top 5 have the opportunity to join Shamir's eSport R&D team to develop glasses technology for testing purposes, which is a crazy prize pool on its own. And then there's that $100,000, Tom.
My goodness, just $100,000, right? Just to add on to it. Absolutely awesome. Now, of course, with the prices being this big, the pressure will be super, super high, as we, of course, look as well to the track details of the track right here in Paul Ricard. Now, note that the sprint race, or the qualifying at least, has been increased by 2 minutes compared to the first race, because it was a little bit chaotic, right? It was a little bit chaotic in the qualifying session last time out, Chris.
That's one way to put it. We saw drivers really only being able to get 2 laps. Some were only able to get 1, and because of the traffic and people slowing down to try and find space for their own laps, we saw lots of drivers out of position. James Baldwin, in particular, one of the guys to watch for this series, only managed to qualify, I think it was P9 in the first sprint race, because he got blocked on his lap by a driver that was on a slow run. And I expect that extra 2 minutes is going to help, but it's not going to change things massively, especially here in the wet. So 2 laps may still be the only amount anyone gets. You're definitely time for a third, but not everyone's going to get it. And I think traffic is still going to be an issue, though perhaps not quite as bad as Barcelona.
For sure. Now, as we look to the prizes a little bit before, I actually went into an interview with Binance explaining what the Alpine Esports or the Alpine fan token is. So let's go and take a look and see, and we'll be right back in a little bit. Hello everyone, we're here with Haye, head of fan token and NFT at Binance, to demystify the Alpine fan token, of course, throughout the Alpine Esports series powered by Binance. Now, Helen, good to have you here. Could you tell us a bit about the Binance's role within the competition with Alpine?
Thank you, Tom. It's my great pleasure to be here today. Binance, it is the official fan token partner of Alpine Esports and BWT Alpine F1 team. What does that mean? That means the championship is powered by Binance Fan NFT platform with USD 100K in Alpine fan token up for grab across the competition. There's including prize pools and there's also rewards. This marks the first ever esports tournament with rewards in Alpine fan token and NFTs.
Those are some big rewards up for grabs this time around. Now, the announcement of the prize pool triggered some questions with the ACC community. Would it be possible for the winners of the competition to convert their Alpine fan token into dollars or, for example, euros?
The answer is absolutely. We understand there could be a confusion around this. That's why it's very important to say the answer is yes. All users need is a verified Binance account to receive their fan tokens competition reward. They can then choose to hold or trade the fan token for dollars, euros, and any other currencies on the Binance platform. They could choose to put them in digital gift cards and give them to friends and families. They could also use the fan token to purchase Alpine NFTs, which is coming soon, which would come also with amazing money cannot buy experiences. So there's a huge choice. And then to converting it into currency is just one of the choice.
Awesome, sounds good.
An introduction to Alpine Fan Token. Alpine Fan Token is a utility token that powers the Alpine F1 team fan experience and connects the team with its fans globally. Binance partnered with the Alpine F1 team to issue tokens to fans via the Binance Fan Token Launchpad. The Alpine token has created an innovative way for the team to engage its fan base and create meaningful brand experiences. Fan tokens are all about delivering the ultimate fan moment, whether it's connecting you with the Alpine F1 team or giving you opportunities to shape your favorite brands. You can collect Alpine fan tokens or exchange them for true once-in-a-lifetime fan experiences. The possibilities are endless. Expect signed merchandise not available anywhere else, meet and greets with their drivers, unprecedented behind-the-scenes access to VIP events, and more. Alpine fan tokens provide fans with exciting ways to engage with the Alpine F1 team and Alpine racing teams. Voting sessions give fans the exclusive opportunity to influence the team's decisions. For example, voting on the livery of the Alpine A110 GT4, which the team will use in the Alpine Esports competition. This way, token holders become more connected with the teams they support and champion. With more tokens in your wallet, you can wield more influence and sway. When you own Alpine fan tokens, you're not just a fan, you're part of the team. In addition to fan experiences, you can spend your Alpine fan tokens on limited edition digital artworks and team collectibles available on the Binance NFT marketplace. When you own the Alpine token, you'll also get additional fan rewards that grant exclusive privileges, including special reward pools, access to exclusive NFT drops, and more. Since Alpine fan tokens are BEP20 tokens powered by BNB Smart Chain, they're easily accessible. You can collect Alpine tokens without paying sky-high network fees and trade them easily on Binance spot markets with a debit or credit card, gift card, or via P2P. Visit Binance Academy to learn more about cryptocurrency and blockchain.
Now, talking about like the engagement with the fans, right? Is there something more you could tell us about like how fans can get immediately involved with Alpine and Alpine Fan Token?
One of the things, the most popular thing is the pop NFTs. Let me explain it more.
Okay.
We're releasing 5 exclusive Alpine proof of attendance protocol (POAP) pop NFTs throughout the Alpine Esports Series, powered by the Binance races. So that means if you watch all 3 live streams in April to June, there will be a QR code you can scan and use the Binance application and immediately receive those pop NFT. Each of them actually is a part of the Binance Alpine GT4 car, which you see in the game itself. There will be 4 different designs which users can collect, and each comes with its own rarity. These designs were voted by the fan token holders on the Binance fan token platform, with the most popular voted one being the most rare. So actually user has a lot of choice to decide which one is the most rare, most valuable one. If you manage to collect all 5 pop NFTs, you will stand a chance for NFT mystery box airdrop with the full Binance Alpine G4 cards. So basically, if you collect all 5, you will receive an additional thing. And then this card will be able to be used inside of the ACC game itself, selected metaverse partners, and also come with a money cannot buy experience. On top of that, the new Binance user will be airdropped 1 Alpine fan token. So that's for the new users. If you scan the QR code and find in stream, also users can get their hands on the fan token on Binance via various payment methods.
Even though I am commentating the event, I probably have to go and scan the QR code in the meantime as well myself, Helen. Thank you so much.
I have to tell you, you know, for most of the mystery box sale, I was never able to get one because it's so popular.
Definitely gonna be ready with the phones to scan the QR codes. Helen, thank you so much for explaining all this and answering the questions of the community surrounding the Alpine fan token and Binance involvement with the Alpine Esports Series. Thank you very much, and hopefully see you very soon in the stream itself as well.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to working with the community very much, and we are here to serve. Thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you. Now let's head over to the POAP.
Qualifying is underway for round 2 of the Alpine Esports era. Just getting going here, and during free practice, the names at the top of the list all very familiar to anyone that watched round 1. And you've been watching some words from Binance about how you can get involved and potentially win some great prizes. There's also one other competition that we need to mention that involves screenshotting the Alpine car, Thom.
Indeed, a new one, and it's called Capture and Caption, and you can win a Binance Alpine GT4 NFT mystery box. So what you should do for that is you should go and join the Binance fan token Discord, invite a friend, then capture the best screenshot of the Binance Alpine GT4 in-game, as you can see right now, and then share it in the Discord server. There's 10 Binance Alpine GT4 NFT mystery boxes that will be given away at the end of June, and more details will be on the Binance fan token on Twitter and Discord. Also, claim your Alpine airdrop. It's up on the screen right now. Go and scan it up, and we are in qualifying. 5 minutes to go, and Boothby, we are on at the moment in terms of the camera. So let's see what he can do. They're currently all getting familiar with the track and with the water that is currently very much so on track as well. Will this be of implications? Have they really practiced as much in the rain as they wanted? That is the question. What do you think, Chris? Is this going to be a big upset here, having the rain on track?
Well, I mean, I've never known a sim racer that's not been annoyed by it raining, to be perfectly honest with you, Thom. So I suspect all of them would have preferred it to be dry and nice and straightforward. Not least of all George Boothby, who won the sprint race last time out and is nearly didn't take part tonight due to illness. So he is coming into this on the back foot with a bit of rain. I'm sure that's improved his mood no end. And well, it'd be interesting to see what he does. We're seeing the first drivers out on their actual hot lap now after setting their out lap times in the 3 or 4 minute range, which I don't expect to be representative. What I am expecting is times in the sort of 2 minute 8 seconds, maybe even 2 minute 7 seconds, as the track's only really damp. There is some standing water, but it may start to dry a little as the session progresses. Not that there's much left to progress, Thom.
For sure. And what an amazing story it would be as well for Boothby, who, of course, like you said, actually became ill right before the race today, to actually bounce back here. Now let's see how much energy he still has left in the tank himself, but he's currently halfway through the lap, and as we head to the last and final sector, this is the sector that I was talking about before, how tricky it can be once the tires start wearing down. Now, of course, in qualifying, you're not gonna have that tire wear playing a big factor. However, it is a very tough sector to handle regardless, and especially with the rain right here. This turn, super wide. Now custody inside hits the curve a tiny bit on the right hand side and goes all the way to the left hand side to use as much of the track as possible, then brake super deep, and then just leave the apex hanging for a bit, and then a late apex, boom, go to the inside. 2 more corners to go, and that will be the first lap time set by anyone. On the right hand side at the top you can see as well a lot of drivers out on track, basically everybody, and there's literally no space in between to spare. And they're all trying to get slipstream on each other, but also trying to maintain the gaps between each other to be able to do their own laps and not get too close to the car in front to the point where they have to lift off. Now over the line, it's going to be a 1 or 2:09.4.
Yeah, not the fastest time we've seen in the practice session beforehand, and a very scruffy lap for Boothby, who seemed to be struggling to get the car turned in and find an apex. But that time still good enough for third, with Miato, who's I think maybe a feature in today's race, is currently 4th in the championship and putting in very fast times during the practice session. And we are only 2 minutes and 8 seconds to go. So anyone who hasn't set a time now, so that's P14 downwards, is only going to get 2 laps. They're not going to be able to get round and set another time after that. So those top 13 or so drivers will get 1 more attempt than everybody else, and that could prove critical.
That is a big advantage to have, and we saw, I think, last race only being able to do 2 laps for the majority. So those who actually did a lap, the top 13, being able to do 3 laps, I mean, on the last lap, they're going to be able to do an all-or-nothing approach, knowing that the rest of the drivers, or at least half of the grid, did not get that opportunity a little bit earlier on. But we're on board with Delia at the moment, who is going to try and score a little bit more points this time around compared to the race last time out, because he wants to go and battle for the championship too and have a good shot.
Speaking of which, right at the top of the table, right at the top of the timing table, is one James Baldwin, straight in with a 2:08.7, slightly improving on his best time from practice, and 2 tenths clear at the top, 10th and a half actually, if you want to split hairs. And well, given how close the racing is, we probably do need to split hairs to time these guys. So yeah, not ideal track conditions, but the fastest guys straight to the front, as you'd expect, Thom.
I'm getting a little bit of a deja vu compared to the last qualifying session that we've done in the main race, with James actually having a pretty decent gap to the rest as well, and actually setting himself apart. Now, of course, this is going to be the perfect start for him, because if he can go and qualify in P1, he can try and maintain and manage the race once again, which he did perfectly in the main race too. But there's only 28 seconds left, and a couple drivers have not even set a lap time yet. As we can see, some of the drivers are actually battling with each other out on track as well, and that's going to lose him some time with Czarnecki. Oh my goodness, and they touch a little bit even. Czarnecki has to go and continue his lap. That is not what you want to have, right, Chris, in the qualifying session?
Absolutely not. We were just watching Isaac Gillison, someone I said to watch. Obviously didn't manage to find enough space on his first run, getting caught out, and that's some big mistake there, fighting through qualifying laps. This is how crazy this sprint race format is. You've got to get your lap in, you've got to get your time in. So if someone's in the way, someone's holding you up, you've got to make a move. We saw Isaac Gillison do that successfully, and unfortunately for the other guys, perhaps not so much, and they're not going to have time to recover to the pits and get out, as we see Ethan Patterson, the Twitch streamer, taking the how should we say, the drift line,
the Tokyo drift line.
Yeah, through the sector onto the back straight, which is so really not the fastest way to go around there. He is currently running well with the AMs, as we see Isaac Gillison has moved out of that little group towards the back. Baldwin has gone another 10th quicker at the top, now 3/10 clear. It's the real question is, can anyone else do anything to interrupt his party? Isaac Gillison in the AM category has done very well to put the car up into 4th place. Who else? Does anyone have an answer, Thom?
Honestly, there's a lot of people who are done already at the moment, but there is somebody at the moment who is a 10th up, but the checker flag has waven, and it's going to be done now. So in a little bit we'll see who's going to be at the top, but I don't think anybody is going to be able to beat James Baldwin today, who is looking mighty strong once more. And it does show that in the rain the gaps are a little bit bigger compared to normally, because this is where you can make the difference as a driver in the rain, sliding around, or perhaps saying not really sliding around.
Victor Nicolai coming across the line. We've seen good stuff from him, but perhaps a little bit not great at bringing home the points. He was up quite a lot on his lap, but lost it all in the final sector. We were watching Marias beforehand, handling the car absolutely beautifully. It looks like a dream out there, not fighting it like some of the others we saw. Let's see. He probably is the last of the fast guys to come across the line. Doesn't improve, sadly, and will start the race from the back end of the top 10 in 8th place. But looking down the order at the front, it's James Baldwin again from Miato, who we said would be one to watch. Nebi, again, fighting the front end of this championship, joined by Isaac Gillison, who is a guest for this round, has obviously done his homework and doing a good job to be a part of the action. And then familiar names: Romanoli, Whitehead, Pajic. Pajic will be ruining that attempt. He has a purple sector. He's currently in P2 in the championship, finished 2nd in both of the sprint races. George Boothby finished 3rd and 1st, down in 9th place, and Kun rounds out the top 10. There's a little bit of an upset there, Thom.
For sure, and what actually amazes me is that there's a purple sector for the one who is in P7, right? As well as the one who is in P5, Romagnoli, with a purple first sector. So the times are so close, or maybe even not as close in a particular sector, and the drivers are actually gaining different kind of like sector times in different kind of sectors, right? So we can definitely see perhaps they have taken a different route in terms of setup per sector, to the point where a couple cars are quicker in a different sector compared to the others. But yeah, or it's just straight up making mistakes, because I know because last year around we had actually gotten rain around Belgium. I remember that. That was super tough to drive. So yeah, I mean, judging of what we saw last year in Belgium, right, in the race, what do we expect in the rain, if it's going to rain as well in the race?
Well, as you said, mistakes are more common. Small mistakes are much more likely to happen, and you're going to get those race-defining moments because of it. The rain in ACC is dynamic, so the track will change, the conditions will change. If it goes from wet to dry, we'll have some very interesting stuff to contend with. If it gets wetter, then, well, that's just going to get worse for the drivers. So There's a strategy element. There's a just general keeping an eye on the race and saving tyres element that needs to be kept on top of. I think realistically, the guys at the front are going to be the guys that are going to cope with it better. They have obviously done their homework. They've prepared, and you can see we have a drive-through penalty for one of the drivers, which I'm guessing was for that contact, Thom.
Yes, we saw that on screen, of course, with the number 12 and number 7 colliding into each other, actually going deep, one of the cars, and then hitting the other one, and we saw what happened afterwards. Both of the cars were off track in qualifying, and that's not what you want to see, and the number 12 is going to have a drive-through penalty, Rochelle, to be exact, for the sprint race.
He hit. Rochelle is the one with the penalty, but it was Marco Pajic, number 2 in the championship. I think he hit, was it not? Oh, it was Arthur. Sorry, my mistake. The information I've got here isn't quite accurate. But a busy session typified by that incident, that penalty. But it's hard to think of anything other than this championship battle. And for me, it is Marco Pajic that's got the work to do. He's got 7 places away from the front, and he's got to stay in contention with James Baldwin. He's going to have to do some real work, as is George Boothby down in 9th place. Those are really, for me, the 2 big stories out of qualifying, and the 2 guys that are going to have to do their hardest to improve and move forward. The rest of the top 10, at least for me, I think they're familiar names. They're people we expected to be there. They're just all in the wrong order, Thom.
Yeah, they are, and especially with Isaac currently in P4. I expected him to do good, but I mean, in the first race, he's definitely put in a good amount of practice, and it'll be fun to see because we haven't really seen so far in the first race too in Spain. The AM guys, the guests actually competing with the pro guys on an equal term, right? So that's gonna be interesting to see, and I mean, I guess the guys, the pro guys, are just gonna be maybe frustrated, because I mean, he's taking away points, or he's taking not necessarily points, but he's taking away the position where we want to be able to stay close to the car in front to get even more points, because of course the guests are not scoring points here, but they can upset and they can fill the gap where the pro guys don't want the gap to be filled.
Yeah, there is no doubt that Isaac is a bit of a spoiler up there for the guys contending the championship, and that's no fault of his own, other than the fact that he's a professional and he's done a really good job. He's going to be out there trying to do the best he can, and we'll see what impact that has on the championship. This is racing, and you just have to deal with those things. This is like multi-class or dealing with pro-am and pro driver setups that you might get in endurance racing. So this is very applicable to the type of cars we're driving and the venue that we're driving at and the type of racing we expect in ACC. So I expect all of these drivers to be very familiar with it, but it doesn't mean they're going to be happy about it, Thom.
For sure. And also what's going to be very interesting is, of course, I mean, the guests are not necessarily going to be having a big chance to mingle with the pro drivers in the qualifying, but in the race it's completely different, because here there will be incidents, there will be opportunities to go and get. So, I mean, if there's an opportunity to go and gain places, then this is the way to be. Last year we saw it as well, as the race is starting in just 5 seconds. So those lights will be going out very, very shortly. As we look at the Paul Ricard track at the moment, from a top-down view. I always have the same feeling, right? When I look at the track, I get a little bit dizzy, right? I get a little bit dizzy because of all the lines, but they actually have a purpose, right? The lines, actually, by slowing down the car.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there are 1 or 2 different circuit layouts, as you can see. If you're new to Paul Ricard, then the stripy areas off of the track are designed to be extra grippy areas of tarmac. They're designed to slow the cars if they go offline. There's different grip levels between the blue and the red. It's not just for aesthetics. It's not designed to confuse the drivers, although most drivers would disagree with that statement. What is very interesting about Paul Ricard in this car is you've got a fairly technical Sector 1 that we see them coming through now. Turn 1 and 2, a mid-speed chicane, and then we get into this sort of really tricky series of corners now through Hotel and Virage du Camp, where this is probably the slowest corner on the track, or maybe the final corner is. Both are pretty slow, to be honest. And then you have this massive acceleration zone through this fast right-hand corner that in the wet seems to be very tricky, but it's critical for getting an enormous amount of speed onto the back straight, the Mistral straight, well known throughout the world of motor racing. And this is so long. You have to pick and time your moves here so carefully because the slipstream is such a big advantage. You get your move done too early and you're potentially in trouble and you come back under fire. And no one is probably more aware of that than James Baldwin, the man at the front who has everyone behind him trying to do just that, Tom.
For sure, and of course, it being the sprint race, there's not going to be as many points up for grabs as in the main race, but it's of course very important to already be in that mindset of wanting to score maximum amount of points, because if you can do it over here, you can do it in the main race as well. So it's going to be a perfect start, and we saw James actually coming off to a it wasn't really a rocky start, but he wasn't necessarily in the top position straight away. He was in the top 10 though for the first sprint race in Barcelona, but he wasn't all the way up top. However, in the main race, he was in P1 and managed to control the race. So perhaps from that starting point in P1 here, they'll be able to do just that. But as we go on board with Arduini in the midfield, that is going to be a whole different point of view, because Arduini wants to go and make as many positions as possible at the start because he wants to get into the points. So if there is an opportunity to get points here, then that is definitely gonna be at the start here, or at least his biggest opportunity. So let's see if this start is gonna be completely clean, or if it's gonna be a little bit of pushing and all that. But regardless, I think we'll see them try for every single move we can. So let's see as we actually go through the last couple of turns right here before we start the sprint race. 15 minutes at a 2:06 p.m. clock locally in Paul Ricard. Now let's see.
Yeah, time isn't necessarily going to be a factor here. The midfield is going to be where a lot of the action is. After we've been talking a lot about the front, but that mid-pack, historically speaking, has been pretty messy. We've still got a few corners to go as we go into the very tricky last sector, Virage du Tour, and then into Virage du Pont, the very tight right-hander. It's extremely important to get that right, to get the launch down onto the start-finish straight. Andrea Miato will be looking to gain any advantage he can to stay as close to Baldwin as they come across the start-finish line.
Now, of course, it's a rolling start right here as they get underway in a little bit, and you can see them very much so warming up the brakes, braking down very hard, accelerating, braking down very hard once again. And I believe once we go across the line right here, it's gonna be time to get into the first turn. A short run, not necessarily very, very long into the first turn, but here we go then. As we get to the first turn, it is gonna be time to start the race. Will there be any overtakes then as we go into the first turn? It's gonna be a hard braking zone. It's gonna be Miato on the right-hand side, and Baldwin just about taking the inside and keeping it there. 3 wide through the first turn for a lot of cars, and it's been somewhat clean here, Chris.
You know what? That's about as good as it gets. I have to commend the stream director there for picking that camera angle, because I was expecting it to be 10-pin bowling. George Boothby already up to 8th place, trying to undo some of that bad qualifying position straight away as he makes contact. In fact, a little bit of hip and shoulder check. I don't think that's too much of a problem there, Tom. All's fair in racing.
No, for sure. A little bit of contact is enough, but with these cars, a tiny bit of contact could also mean the end. And in these conditions, it's gotta be tough to maintain the car under control if you start getting that slide in. Now, on the right-hand side, we got Victor Nicolay, but it seems like he dropped down a little bit here at the start then. Now running in P15 and getting closer and closer to the cars in front, but there's a little bit of a gap forming now. In front of Czarnecki in that blue car right there. But let's see, as we head to a hard braking zone, or actually not that hard, you can actually let the throttle go a tiny bit. Oh my goodness, that could be 3 wide, not quite, but being on the outside here, oh my goodness, and there's actually a little bit of a slide going on, just about held on though, and now we can see some cars hitting some cones and using a little bit more of the track than is allowed.
I have no idea how everyone got through senior corner for the first time. As you say, it's a little lift in the dry. Who knows what it's like in the wet? We saw several cars drifting well wide onto the outer zone there. So clearly more of a lift than planned. And then 6 or 7 wide into the long run right-hander of Bose. So everyone's pretty on it right away, Thom.
For sure. And Isaac as well, starting from P4, only lost one position. I mean, he is currently only 0.035 behind of Luke Whitehead, who's also made up a couple of positions at the start here. So that's going to be good for his championship aspirations. As in the midfield, though, as we go on board with Valero, it is going to be fighting going on all over the place. These guys are not going to stand back for anything, with Oli Caldwell currently in P30 already. So he's gained a couple of positions. And he's actually in the fight here for with a couple of pro drivers. And I mentioned this at the start as well. As we have somebody going off at the back there. Watch out though, because that could give you a track extension at some point. Because we do have stewards monitoring every single incident, every single moment. As we have a huge moment there then. And actually move for the inside. A beautiful move by Valero. And he is going to maintain a position. However, we do have a little bit of a spinner going on. And that is going to be, I believe, Bergara, who is currently in P23 behind of Valero.
Yeah, beautiful move by Valero there. Absolutely textbook, and then helped out by the spinning Bergara behind him, who stopped any chance of anyone coming back at him in that train of cars that was filtering through. Here we go, have an onboard coming down the Mistral Straight. We're maybe about 2/3 of the way along. Let's see what, if any, impact the slipstream is going to have as we cut away to Michel Nerby at the front. Here we go. That's the slipstream we're talking about. It's quite an early move, doesn't run out of momentum, and then finds himself 3 wide on the outside of a sandwich going into senior. That is not a place you want to be, as he finds himself running about 300 or 400 kilometers wide of the circuit. And that rejoin, Thom, was a little bit optimistic, I think.
That was a little bit of a sketchy rejoin. As you saw, he was actually closing the gap there on the inside, and there were a couple of cars trying to go and take their optimal line. So yes, that was maybe a little bit sketchy. But of course, he wanted to go and not lose as much time as possible, and I do think he did that just about over there, but he came away with it, he got away with it, so that's okay. Now Baldwin currently putting the fastest lap in with a 2:09.3 and currently driving away by 1.1 second of a gap. So once again, Baldwin trying to maintain the race, manage the race, as we have a huge side-by-side battle going on between the two Binance cars, and in doing so, in battling, there is going to be someone else who profits from that overtake there. From them battling, you can just profit. So it's very important to pick your fights. We saw this in the last race as well. Pick your fights very smart, because otherwise somebody else is gonna go and run away with it. And this is exactly what is happening here.
Yeah, there is a lot going on here, as we saw Boothby and Kuhn still battling out as they were from turn 1. Isaac Gillison getting into contact with, I think, Nerby. He'd been fighting it out. They are still nose to tail with Pajic, who is one of the championship protagonists, currently in P2 in the championship. Now in the slipstream, moves out onto the inside of the very experienced Isaac Gillison. Has the run, but he's going to have to do it the hard way down onto the inside of senior, but it actually looks like he's got the move done very early. Is it too early, though? That's the question. It doesn't look like it. In fact, great run there from Pajic. Obviously got a great launch onto the back straight, as we see those 2 Binance cars, 3 Binance cars now, as Lorenz Horsig gets involved in the action as well. This is a bad day for George Boothby.
We saw a huge drift then. It was literally sideways through the corner. Yet he still managed to get a better traction zone compared to the car that we were on board with. That was actually nuts. As you went, it was that is what you call a Paul Ricard drift, right? No Tokyo drift, a Paul Ricard drift through the corner, which if it was to be dry, is the corner where you would be experiencing a lot of tire wear. But honestly, in this short hill race, in the sprint race, we are not going to be thinking all too much about tire wear, especially with the rain coming in right here. Now we are on board with Arduini, who has made himself go up to P14, P13 now, as he was in P16 earlier, like we have seen. Now trying to go up the inside, but that's gonna prove to be tough, and he's gonna think the better of it, because if he went for it there, perhaps we would have seen the exact same thing happen as last lap, where he tried to go for the move and somebody else goes away with it. Now we have a battle at the front end. Luke Whitehead has managed to close in to the car of Miato. So now, once we get onto the main straight, this is going to be very crucial to see who will get the best of traction zones. Now, Luke Whitehead getting through the grid already, Chris. I did not expect that, did you? That is very, very impressive by Luke at the moment, who is getting closer and closer then on the main straight and using that slipstream, getting into the suck where the air is going to be a lot thinner, right? Getting right behind of the car of Miato and trying to just about get out of it at the last and final moment to try and mount an attack. Will he go to the outside or will Miato try and defend the inside? He will do so. So it's going to be Whitehead trying to maintain his move and trying to go all the way around. This time around though, it's proving to be tough, very, very tough as he rejoins outside of the track. This time around though, Luke Whitehead is doing it safely and surely so that he can maintain the gap to the car of Miato. But at the front here, oh, and we have a spinner. It's Nurby, no! In P5, Nurby spinning around, one of the contenders for good positions here in the sprint race, spinning around, and now he is going to go and offer an opportunity to different drivers to go and gain that move.
Nurby in P6 in the championship as well. That's a really big problem for him. You can't afford to be dropping points at that rate.
Oh, there we go. So that was the move. It was Nurby who completely lost it there then. And that is probably going to be the end of his race for now. It's still showing him in P6, but there we go. Now he's dropping down the grid, being in the pits, probably having a little bit of damage as well from that. So he's dropping down behind. Arduini though, we've been on board for a little bit now, and he's just keeping it up with the moves, overtaking, keeping his head cool, and that is exactly what you need, even though it is a little bit cooler out on track right now because of the weather. You also have to keep it cool because being in a sim rig like that, it could get very, very hot, especially with 30 pro drivers who are all equally as quick. As we've seen in the qualifying session, the gaps being quite close. Now we're on board with Tward Zidlo, who is in P7 and trying to close in to Romagnoli.
Yeah,
now
one of the big winners in that scrap between Boothby and Kuhn a few laps ago, both of which are still scrapping on the outside of the top 10. Managed to sneak by while those two were making contact every couple of corners, it seemed, or at least driving each other off the track. He is having a little sample of the slipstream, and let's see what he can do. He's quite a long way back, but this slipstream does seem nice and powerful here at Paul Ricard, but not quite enough straight left for Moraes there, who has to settle. As we see Luke Whitehead up the inside now into Beausset. He tried to go around the outside last time, and Miato has to settle for second place. Great move there, Tom.
A great move by Whitehead then, who finally gets the move done. It does seem like he has a little bit of extra pace, or he has had so all the way throughout, as we have a good battle going on here too, and taking the line here. Oh my goodness, actually going super hard over the curbs and using all the track that is possible, but just about keeping in front of Romagnoli. Isaac Gillison is. He is losing slowly but surely a tiny bit of time compared to Pejic, but of course when you're battling this hard, it's very tough to look forward rather than look backwards, and he has to go and like Alonso once said, right, defend like a lion right now.
Yeah, this is very much the sort of car where if you start looking backwards, you start having to defend, then you lose contact with the guys in front, and that's what we're seeing with Gillison, who's now a large 1.2 seconds off of the pack. We're watching Fabien Jeanblanc, who was a feature in last year's series, always seemed to be in the thick of the action, up the front, qualifying in the point scoring positions a lot of the time and getting involved in a lot of the battles, as we see very much the same as he throws a late move onto the inside of Kuhn there, maybe a little bit too far back, but always good to keep the opposition guessing. He is outside of the top 10, and in fact you would need to be in the top 8 to score points in this sprint race, so a little bit of work to do for Fabien there.
Indeed.
He's going to have another crack at the whip next time around.
Indeed, and looking at the top 8 as well, would be just about being outside of the top 8, meaning he would not be able to score points here, but being in P3 in the championship with 25 points, 4 points down on the championship leader James Baldwin, that will be something he wants to do here and keep up with James Baldwin, because he will score the full 10 points, as we have now towards Zidlo trying to go on the outside with, I see most of the drivers defending the inside in that corner, knowing that the inside is a shorter run to the next corner, right? With the outside being tough, especially in the rain, and it's very easy to go and outbrake yourself and then completely lose the car, go super deep, and lose so much time that you might even lose the position. Oh, you can see them sliding now then, as it is going to be Pejic trying to go on the inside though. Isaac Gillison will keep the inside for the next corner, and in doing so tactically positions the car to be able to just about keep him back. But you can see it is Pejic with a little bit more traction through the corners.
Yeah,
and I believe
that move is absolutely critical for the championship here, because Haye started down in 7th place, has now moved into 3rd past Miato, who's dropped back after a strong practice and qualifying performance. We once again look at Gillison and Torslow battling it out, as they have been seemingly for the last half a dozen laps. So that's Romagnoli as well. But yeah, the move there, absolutely critical for the championship, and it has to be said that Haye doing a fantastic recovery drive.
The battles have really unleashed at the front here, from P2 all the way down to P8, P9. Everyone is continuously battling, and literally as we speak, towards Zidlo is trying it again on Romagnoli then, who is oh my goodness, and they're touching as well. So it's gonna be Romagnoli who has to go and take the shorter way around the track. Will there be some looking at that incident here then by the stewards, because he did gain a little bit of time of it. There was only 1 tenth in between, and now 5 tenths. Who was in front at that point? I'm not quite sure, but of course we'll leave it up to the stewards to see what they think. What is for sure though is that towards Zidlo is going to try and go for it once more.
We're looking at Haye and Miato, and Gillison back in contact with them because they've been battling. I didn't see how, but Haye ended up behind Miato there by through the lap. Gillison following him through, finding the running out of space, no gap there. He gets a touch from Miato. You don't want to be moving across like that. Gillison looking very fighty at the moment, but Haye critically ahead.
Yes, and up into P3 then. So there's been a couple of position changes at the front. Pejic now inherits P3 with Miato having that P2 spot a little while ago. Just doesn't really seem to be able to keep that gap behind and being involved in those battles. Currently on the worst part of it, but who knows? There's still 3 seconds left in the race, meaning the drivers that cross the line right now will go and get the checkered flag, or the ones who are doing a lap right now are going to be able to do another lap right here. Though we are on board with James Baldwin, who currently has 4.4 seconds to the car behind, and that means checkered flag for him here, and that means James Baldwin will go and win the sprint race with Luke Whitehead behind and Miato in P3. Now, as we have more drivers all over the grid coming in right now, who was our surprise here then?
Well, George Boothby had a bit of a mare, as you might say, on that particular one, as we've still got fights going across the line outside of the top 10. Boothby critically outside of the point scoring positions there, which will be a bitter pill for him to swallow. At the front, Baldwin doing what we expected him to do and controlling the race. It almost looked to me like he was just backing off there a little bit on the towards the run to the line to make sure he didn't have to do another lap, but that could easily have just been my reading of the situation. He had a few seconds in hand, didn't he, Thom?
For sure. You can claim your Alpine airdrop, by the way. So get your QR scan codes, or you get your phones ready to scan the QR code, and you can go and claim your Alpine airdrop right now. Now, we also saw Uli Caldwell actually in P26, and like I said at the start of the race, in qualifying, those guest drivers, because of the amount of time they had to practice, compared to the pro drivers, right? They actually were able to go and get a couple of positions here as well. Now, we saw that last season as well of the Alpine Esports Series with me racing, right? I I was always quite hesitant of being in the way of the drivers, of the pro drivers in the qualifying session. However, in the race, I knew I could battle them, and I did not go out of the way. And I'm sure that's the same with Ollie Caldwell, of course, for anybody who doesn't know. Currently a guest driver, of course, in real life, Formula 2 driver too, and part of the Alpine Academy. So super cool to have him here too. But what an awesome race. In the wet, first wet race of the season. What are the key takeaways here? In the first race here or the sprint race, going into the main race in a little bit as well, which will be a little bit longer, and who knows, we might even have rain there as well.
Yeah, I think the main takeaway is that it gets pretty busy in the midfield. We saw the likes of Boothby and Kuhn battling it out lap after lap after lap and dropping away from the pack in front of them. We know those guys are fast. We saw Gillison in the middle of the race dropping back from the pack because he was having to go defensive. Miato and Pajic there right at the end in the same situation, losing time to the top two drivers and dropping back again into the contention of Gillison at the end, sort of rather poetically. So I think this is a track that promotes a lot of overtaking opportunities. There's a lot of different ways around it, particularly in the wet. We saw overtakes on the inside, the outside, on the runoff. In one case, a runoff so far that looked like they were on their way down to Cannes rather than continuing around the track. So this is there's a lot of different opportunities, Tom. So the only way really to do anything predictably is to qualify on pole and drive away at the front, like, well, James Baldwin.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, you can definitely see as well. I mean, I'm not going to take away anything of his performance and his absolute monstrous pace, but you can see as well that if you do not really have those battles going on, you're just able to. He probably wasn't managing the pace. He probably was pushing all out all the way throughout. But you can see that by not battling all the way throughout, you can do your own race, and dropping away by 4.3 seconds is definitely shows that too. Now, round 2, the race results in Paul Ricard. It's James Baldwin in P10 with Luke Whitehead, or not P10, 10 points with Luke Whitehead with 8 points, then Andrea Miato, P3 with 6 points, then Pajic in P5 points, with Romagnoli 4 points, with Georgillo with 3, then P7 Michal Nowakowski, P8 Boothby, who still got a point here, and Nurby Nicolai rounds off the top 10.
Michel Nurby just fell, probably at the last corner, because we were watching Boothby in P9, 2 or 3 corners away from the end. I was still running down in 9th position, so obviously managed to nab that right at the dying second there. That point may prove critical. We will see as the season unfolds. Mark that one down, Tom, because that might be something we need to refer back to next time out.
Okay. Now, what we're going to do, we are going to go and have a talk with the one and only James Baldwin. Now, James, I was wondering, did you eat porridge this morning?
Porridge? Nah, man, I'm not about that. That was a good race, yeah. Tricky conditions, mate, because it was like drying. The wets were on fire. Like,
yeah.
The tire indicators were red. But yeah, really happy with that. Yeah.
So, like, talk us through about the tires as well, then, because I mean, I was thinking it being rainy, right? Tires wouldn't really play all too big of a deal, but we did see a lot of drivers like sliding around, especially the start of Sector 3, right? The fast right-hander. Was it the same for you as well?
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of lucky because I didn't have to fight anyone, so I could drive on the wet patches. I could drive very like smoothly and not push too hard. But the guy, if you're in a fight, obviously you got to push to try and overtake someone. You're going to spin the rears up every so often, and then you'll overheat them, and then it's a nightmare from that moment onwards, really. So, qualifying was very important, and had a good start, and that was it, really. So,
cool. Now, looking at the qualifying, right? Of course, this one was 7 minutes compared to the 5. Did that make a very big difference for you? Because I remember in the sprint qualifying, you had a little of a thingy going on last time around, right?
Yeah, well, in the last one, I only got 1 lap and it got blocked. So this time I had 2 laps. None of them got blocked. I mean, Marco, my teammate, he did get blocked, I think. So it's still short. Like, you have to do a lap very quickly, but it gives you an extra lap. So I prefer it. Yeah, I think it's a bit fairer. The other way around, when it's 5 minutes, it is a little bit of a lottery, but either way, it's fun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're currently once again leading the championship as we speak with these results. So just trying to extend the gap, and I feel like the only real goal for you here in the next race is to win it again, is it?
100%, yeah, 100%. I mean, it's a championship. It's very short, so got to win everything you can, really. It's dry. I think my pace should be good in the dry, so but it'll be tough. I mean, this grid is stacked with loads of like really good drivers on ACC, so it'll be tough.
For sure. Awesome. Now, James, thank you so much, and good luck, and most importantly, have fun, man.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Cheers. Now, that was James Baldwin, the winner of the sprint race here then, the 15-minute race, as we are, of course, going to get into the main race in a little bit with the qualifying too. We are, however, going to have an interview with Ollie Caldwell, who is actually an Alpine Racing Academy driver too. Ollie Caldwell, what's up? Welcome in. Good to have you here, man.
Hello, how are you?
Awesome. Now, talk us through it, man. The first race in the Alpine Esports Series. I saw you yesterday come up in the Discord chat as well. Guys, can anybody help me with a setup or of some sort as well, right? Because I mean, this grid is stacked, and knowing how competitive you are as a racing driver in general, you want to perform, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's a very busy grid, and I actually only managed to install the game yesterday, so I didn't really want to waste any time messing about. I wanted to see, and I want to be as quick as possible. So yeah, to try and have some help would have been nice. I managed to get a setup. So yeah, I mean, it's completely different to what I'm used to, but it's really good fun.
No, for sure. And we saw, of course, right, in the qualifying session, it being, I mean, of course, not having as much practice and downloading it yesterday, it's super hard in the qualifying session. But then in the race, it's completely different, right? Because you were able to make some moves.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I maybe messed up my setup. I went into quali with a bit too much fuel. It's the first sim race I've ever done that's been wet. Okay. Which is crazy. It's really good how realistic it is, actually. But then, yeah, to jump into the race with the tire deck as well, it seems to be really realistic. Able to get some moves done and stay out of trouble, and yeah, gain positions in the end.
So, talking about the Alpine car, right? Because have you ever driven the Alpine A110 in real life before?
I haven't yet, but
okay.
I am doing a demo day in the future, so I don't know, maybe this will help me out for that day.
No, exactly, because I was thinking it would be amazing to have your thoughts once you've done that, because then you'll be able to get a little bit of a comparison of how it is to drive an actual Alpine A110 compared to the car in game, right? So
yeah,
really cool.
Exactly. I'll have to do a few more laps on the track before and give a full review.
Exactly. Now, looking forward to the main race, right? What are you looking forward to? Like in terms of like, what are you expecting here? Do you want to mingle with the pro drivers again, or perhaps you have some other goals?
I think, well, first of all, it being a dry race, most of the practice I did was in the dry, so hopefully I'm a bit closer in terms of time there. But I think to mingle with the pros is a big ask. These guys, they do it every day and have a lot more practice than me. So I think my goal is just to be better than I was in the wet and get as close to them as I can.
All right, all good. Now, Ollie, have a wonderful next race. Have a lot of fun, and good luck.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right. Now, that was Ollie Caldwell, of course, driver, an Alpine Academy driver, driver in Formula 2 with Campos, who we're going to have to go and keep an eye out, especially once he gets into that real-life Alpine A110 car too. Yeah, it would be lovely to have him on once again in the future to hear what he has to say about the Alpine A110 car and to see what he thinks compared to the game. Now, let's head to a promotional video by Trek Racer and see what they have to say.
One thing that's really special about this track racer simulator is that we try to make the seating position as close to Formula One as possible, while also having the GT option. We're almost lying down, and that's what we try to replicate here.
The Track Racer TRX is a hybrid simulator that allows the user to switch between F1 and GT seating position by adjusting the position of the wheel, the seat and the pedals.
I think the TRX is, compared to an F1 simulator, is as best as you can have at home. The throttle, is very smooth. When you get on it, you can really feel what you are doing with the car.
I think the new TRX simulator is one of the best I ever saw in the market. I think you have best of both worlds in one sim. You can do GT, you can do Formula One.
You can adjust the seating position really easily. Anyone can do it. So we've got this nice bucket seat shape that hugs you in, and also you can adjust the position so that you're in a proper racing position.
So sim racing and Formula One seem to be coming really close together. Obviously the pandemic forced a lot more of our racing into the virtual world. You could say the future talent comes from esports into Formula One.
Sim racing is getting really, really big, and I think more and more drivers are getting from sim racing to motorsport, to real racing.
Simulators and racing sims are a good way of getting into motor racing. I know quite a few drivers that have done that in the past.
The work on the simulator can really improve our performance on the track. We have seen we work a lot on the simulator with Alpine.
Obviously in Formula One we're operating the absolute pinnacle of motorsport. The TRX starts to bring esports to that same level of performance. It's equipment for the very best at the very top end of the market.
I do want the TRX track racer, yeah, definitely. Please.
My name is Richard Arnaud. I am the team principal of Alpine Esports and president and founder of the company Race Clutch. Race Clutch and Alpine have worked together for a bit more than a year now, a brand new partnership to take care of Alpine and its entry into the world of esports, managing all its activities related to the virtual world of racing. This new entity implies a lot of stuff. This is not only gamers behind their computers, there is a whole staff and people around them to ensure their performances. We can think about engineers to develop the cars in-game, or around the human performances with the coaches, psychological approaches and neurovisual training to make sure that the drivers of Alpine Esports are at their best performances when they are competing. But outside of the track, there is also a lot of things around the performances, the human performances. We're thinking about the physical training of the drivers, but also a lot around their visual training and the acuity of the information that they are seeing at the screen. And that's why we are very pleased to welcome Shamir as a new partner into the Alpine Esports family, helping us to reach new heights in terms of performances and in terms of visual acuity for the driver. And thanks to them, Patrick Sipos has been involved into our first project together with the virtual 24 hours of Le Mans.
Hello guys, my name is Patrick Sipos. I come from Hungary. I'm 18 years old and I'm a professional F1 esports driver for Alpine F1 team. So my day looks like that. I come to the office. After that, I go into the simulator and then just drive all day. You can have like 5 to 8 hours per day, but usually the average is like around 6 to 7 hours per day, which can be really tiring. So for preparing for races, we do exercises with a professional trainer. But besides that, we take care of our body by eating healthy and just sleeping well and just the normal stuff, keeping that in the main focus, and that's when the high performance comes in. As you see, I wear glasses, so my vision is a key part for my training because I have to be precise, sharp, and I have to have a quick reaction time as well during like whole sessions, qualifying race. And I'm glad we have Shamir as an optical partner because I'm sure he will improve my vision and it will improve my performance as well during the season.
We are back again with qualifying for the main race of the second round of the Alpine Esports Series here at Paul Ricard, and it probably hasn't escaped your notice that the rain has stopped. We are in a weekend simulation here, so the track needs a bit of time to rubber in. Times will drop, but right now everyone's on their outlap. They've got a 10-minute session as opposed to the 8-minute session last time, so it'll be a question of who gets 3 or 4 laps this time around as opposed to who gets 2 or 3. Still not a massive amount of time to get it done if you're the sort of driver that needs to take a few bites at the cherry to get your absolute peak speed. Thom, how do you approach a qualifying session like that? Are you the sort of guy that gets a banker lap in, or do you just go all in and try and nail it first time?
That's a very interesting question now that you ask, but I remember actually knowing that we had maybe 2 laps or mostly 2 laps for every qualifying session. I mostly handled the first lap as like a banker, like you said, meaning of course I put a lap in to just put a lap in and have a lap time, and then afterwards I know because I've taken a little bit easy, I wanted to not invalidate my lap time and cut the track, knowing that I had that lap time then after that you can use the delta because you have a delta as well, knowing or you can basically see you're going quicker, and if you see you're going quicker, it gives you like a mental boost, right? It gives you like a mental boost, and in doing so you're able to put in a better lap time because of it as well, if you just see green lap times, because if you're looking at red lap times, already having put a good lap time in at the start, it kind of like demotivates you mentally as well. Now actually on the screen right now you can claim your Alpine airdrop, so get scanning with your phone and you can currently claim your Alpine airdrop, so make sure you do so. Now, what is also very interesting, right, to me, because you mentioned, Chris, about the track being green now, and of course it being dry. So it's a big contrast between the first race and the first qualifying and this one. Now, we also heard from Ollie Caldwell in our interview that he was better. He was better, or at least he practiced in the dry. And I presume most drivers here practiced more in the dry than they did in the wet. So I guess maybe we're also going to see some drivers shining in the dry compared to the wet. What do you think, Chris? Are we going to see a difference here between performance?
Yeah, I think so. I think a damp track like that exposes drivers that are better prepared all round and are better all round drivers. The cream always rises to the top. So when you're faced with those kind of challenges, it really does sort of separate out those that have really done their homework. And I think we saw a few of the real championship contenders have a bit of a struggle in that particular sprint race. So I'm expecting the likes of Miato, who've just seen put in a time to go top, to be back up there where we'd expect them to be. George Boothby, half a second slower on his first attempt. He definitely needs more to find, popping into P2 at the moment. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting session to see where the form is on a more comparable note to the previous round at Barcelona.
For sure, and I'm actually quite quite amazed by the differences between the lap times of in the dry and now in the wet as well, because it's only 4 or 5 seconds in between of them, as Baldwin in the meantime is going quickest with a 1 or a 2:03.9. That means 80 thousandths of a second quicker than Miato. So Miato once again being very close to the top, but James Baldwin just seems on another level. I think he did eat porridge. He told me he didn't eat porridge. I think he did eat porridge in the morning.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't accuse him of lying about his breakfast choice on a stream, but if we're going to go down that route, then I'm happy to stand by you in that fight. But no, as you say, Baldwin, as we'd expect, to be fighting away right at the top to start with. But it's the gap to Haye and Boothby being 5 tenths of a second. It's a fair gap. But as we say, we're going to have 2 or 3 laps for those drivers to whittle down at this. This isn't their only bite of the cherry. And as you said, 4 or 5 seconds quicker than the damp track that we were driving on. It wasn't a full wet track. We had puddles. But it's interesting that it is only that 4.5, 5 seconds, given how much we saw drivers sliding around. So actually, the conditions were tricky, but they weren't slow before, Thom.
No, for sure. Okay, yeah, it did look very, very wet in my opinion, but or at least how I saw the track. But I guess a track can be very treacherous in terms of how it looks as well. Oh my goodness, as we see somebody going on a quick lap and another driver having to go out of the way. That is Ethan Patterson. He was actually a little bit scared there, not wanting to go in the way of one of the pro drivers. And he did get out of the way, but I'm not sure if it really helped at that point, as he was already very, very close to the front bumper of that pro driver that wanted to go and start its traction zone onto the main straight. And of course, if he had to lift a little bit there, that's going to be a huge amount of time that they've lost there. But let's see what Ethan Patterson can do, as I know he has actually installed the game for the first time as well, maybe a week ago or something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see if he is going to be progressing from race 1, so the sprint race, up until now, with the experience that he's got in the first race.
Yeah, it's not a game that rewards those that have just picked out. Victor Nicolai putting in a great time there to get within half a second of Baldwin at the front. Again, a factor in last year's championship who hasn't really shone through yet this year, putting it up the sharp end for now amongst the likes of Boothby, Whitehead, Kuhn and Payich down to 9th place now. That's
not it yet.
This is it's not it yet, you're quite right, but right at the front we have a few hundred separating people out, and then we have this massive gap back to P6 and 7, and they're all very close together as well. There's a lot still to play for, with very little time left of things to shake out.
For sure, and of course we had Miato in P2 a little bit ago. However, in the meantime, it was Nurby who had that little issue in the previous race, dropping down all the way into P9, not scoring any points. Now though, Nurby in P2 by 40 thousandths. So the top 3 separated by 80 thousandths and 40 thousandths respectively in between those 3 drivers. So that's gonna be interesting. If these gaps are this close in the try, we're gonna have a good top 3 battle going into the race. But there's, oh, look at that, a different line and somebody drifting all the way throughout. Honestly, I love those kind of camera views where the cars are just drifting through the corners, and this is the perfect corner to see the cars drifting around, because in general you don't really gain the time, but you also, by drifting, don't necessarily lose too much time. So you don't do it on purpose, but when it happens, it's always a really, really cool sight.
What it does do, though, is it really hurts the tyres. Getting that extra bit of heat through them at that stage of the lap isn't great. And then you're only 3 or 4 corners away at this end of the lap, and you've got to start your final qualifying lap with a few seconds to go. You're not going to get another chance to cross the line. So I would argue, on balance, perhaps the drifting isn't the right approach, as interesting as it is. But Baldwin putting himself 2 tenths clear at the front there. Now finally getting a little bit of breathing space. But the top 13 or 14 drivers covered by just a second. Once again, the dry is bringing everyone closer together.
It does seem like James Baldwin is is doing the same strategy that we have talked about before as well. When you asked me what my strategy was to go and do a qualifying session, how to approach it, right? Putting in a banker, which was already a really good lap, right? And then after that, improving by, as we see right now, 2.5 tenths once more. So even though it looked like a very quick lap, he had a little bit in the bag. I'm wondering, does he have even more left in the bag? As now, the checkered flag is gonna get waved. So anybody who goes over the line right now will be getting the checkered flag. Is somebody at the moment on a good lap? We'll have to wait and see. Will anyone be able to dethrone James Baldwin, as we are looking on towards Zidlo right now, going super wide, almost hitting the sign that was on the side of the road. And he's a 10th up right now towards Zidlo. So with that, he was gonna probably be able to jump 1 position or even 2 on Victor Nicolay, who's currently in P6. But I believe he will be on another lap as well. Now, Baldwin over the line. What is Towards Zidlo going to be able to do as he crosses the last and final sector? What do you think, Chris? Is he going to get it?
Well, we will see. We did see him running very wide and just getting inside those marker boards where you have to return. Does a beautiful job into Virage du Pont, where it's so easy to throw away a great lap time, just kissing the curbs, perfect line. And let's see as we cut away, he doesn't improve in the end there.
Now Pejic in P10 with Whitehead still on a lap. And this is going to be close. On for pole at the moment. Luke Whitehead 4.5 tenths down on his previous lap, but now coming over the line, it's gonna be a P2 by 72 thousandths. Luke Whitehead loses out on James Baldwin by 72 thousandths alone. And the one who did very well in the sprint race to get in P2 as well behind of Baldwin is gonna be behind of Baldwin again, as Baldwin is trying to get the win and is looking for the win as well as we speak.
That lap time came out of nowhere, as did that bit of wordplay around the word win. I wasn't expecting either of those. Whitehead, very good in the sprint race, as you say, and didn't look like he was going to be a factor for the battle for pole during this session. It looked like Baldwin had it absolutely nailed on. It was a dead set pole, and it was going to be a question of who else filled out the rest of the top 10, but a beautiful lap right at the dying moments, practically the last guy across the line. As everything shook out, and to be 7/100, 72 thousandths, whichever way you want to measure it, away from pole position must be absolutely gutting.
No, for sure. I mean, I don't think we've had as tense of a qualifying as we've seen right here in the closing stages. So that was honestly really, really cool having Whitehead be so close yet so far at the same time as well, to getting that P1 from Baldwin. And so far in 3 races we've had Baldwin on pole, Chris.
Yeah, we're starting to see a pattern emerge, aren't we? But this time, 7/100ths of a second. What's that? You know, a few tens of centimeters on track. There's so little in it, and I don't think Baldwin's as safe as he'd like to be with that, and particularly on the dry pace here. Whitehead battled his way forward during the last race, as we saw, and made it up to P2, did a great job. And yeah, with that kind of pace, I think James is going to have a harder job. A guy who's definitely going to have a hard job down in P10 is Haye, who's struggling a little bit, as we are going to take a look at the championship standings now as they are after that sprint race. Unsurprisingly, Baldwin at the top, Page still holding on to P2, but everyone else closer behind, helped out by Boothby having a bad round as well. Luke Whitehead bringing himself into contention. He started the day in P5, is now up to P4. He started the day with 14 points, so that's a decent haul, and with a first or second place here, he's going to become, in this final race, he could well become a real contender for the championship here. So great day for Luke Whitehead, a difficult day for Page, but well, we'll see how things slot out from here on, Tom.
Yet still, we only have 8 points, of course, separating James Baldwin and Pejic. But of course, knowing Pejic has to come from far, it will be tough to not lose out any more points this time around. Now, Matthias Kuhn in P12 at the moment, 1 point scored so far. In Spain, is currently in P9. We haven't seen him in the top 10 yet in the previous race here in France too. But this time around, Matthias Kuhn starting from P9. So let's see if he can go and score some points. Of course, in this next race, we'll have the top 10 scoring points, just like the F1 scoring point system, right? So whoever gets the win here is going to score 25 points, and that is a big difference compared to the sprint race. As we look on the grid right now, through the grid we go, looking at all the different liveries. It's looking pretty nice. I like it.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Matthias Kuhn not getting into the top 10 last time, and it certainly wasn't for the want of trying, as he battled most of the race with George Boothby, who managed to sneak into the top 8 at the dying call. So this is once again we're talking about the difference that getting stuck in these big midfield battles make, and we find Pejic, Boothby, Miato, all at the wrong end of the top 10 for people that would consider themselves championship contenders. And those guys, if they're going to be spending the race battling it out, are going to lose contention with James Baldwin and potentially Luke Whitehead at the front. Whitehead, the best thing he can do here is stick with Baldwin or and go to the front and see what he can do as the race progresses. But those guys behind, I think, are in for a big fight.
Now, of course, Bouquet, actually, in P18 right here, filling in for Lucas Muller, the Formula E driver that we have seen participating in the first event, so the first round in Barcelona. He is currently in P18, so that's not all too shabby. Also qualified through the time trial. Yeah.
No, excellent job for his first time in the seat for this. Obviously, as you say, did qualify and was on the reserve list, but great job there. Notice that Mr. Gillison is at the back of the grid for this particular race. I'm not sure if he set a time or not. We know that's not where his pace lies. Maybe he's trying to stay out of the championship battle at the front. Maybe a couple of the pros have had a word with him and say, we don't want to be fighting with you. Get to the back with the rest of the AMs.
Could be, or he's doing the Jimmy Broadbent strategy that we've seen in the first race too, and trying to start from the back on purpose and trying to just get up the grid as much as he can and try to just have some fun going up the grid. Now, let's see then. He had the pace for P4. Starting from the back of the grid now, where do we think he can finish off then? Can he get a point? I mean, a virtual point, because he won't actually score points. Could he get a P10? That could be a cool goal for himself to set, huh?
Well, I mean, it would be a great goal. He's only going to get about 15 laps, 16 laps maybe to do it. So that's a couple of overtakes a lap he's got to do somehow, and without losing time to the cars in front. So it's a bit of a tough ask, but I don't know, with some of the contact we see in the midfield and the fairly robust racing, anything's possible, Tom.
Yeah, and of course the start is going to be crucial here too. Now, we've seen last time out, the battles really start happening once the time is going to count, right? So once we see maybe like 5 minutes left on the clock, or maybe like 8 minutes left on the clock, they're going to start getting nervous, right? They want to be able to, or then it's going to count more, because especially if you're just about outside of the top 10, that is when you have to pull off those moves. So we're probably going to see, or at least judging off of what we've seen in the past, a car just start. Now, I could be completely wrong, and maybe we are going to see the most chaotic start we've ever seen in the past. Let's hope. Although, we have to keep it clean, right? But in general, we would see a more cautious start here, trying to build up the race, and then slowly but surely, the drivers getting more, I wouldn't say aggressive, but more aggressive, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to get a result. You've got 30 minutes to do it. So the reality is you've got to make the moves, and that starts at lap 1. You can't afford to be too cautious. This might be an endurance racing car. This might be a classic endurance racing venue. But right now, there's only a few minutes on the clock, so you've got to get the job done. You're not going to be changing tires. You're not going to be changing fuel. There's nothing you can do with strategy. The only strategy is to make a move and make it stick, which is why there's so much fighting in the midfield and why this is so much fun to watch, Thom.
Oh, for sure. Now, I'm definitely very much looking forward to this race, especially because so much is on the line here as we look from the point of view of the marshals. Now, let's hope that the marshals are not going to be having a big task to do today, trying to clear cars. But now we've seen actually in this corner exactly that going side by side here is going to be a tough job, especially because the corner seems very wide going into it. But actually going through, especially because the track is so quick, or especially the corner is so quick, you only really have one line, and you must leave space for the car that is on the outside. Otherwise, the car on the outside is completely gonna run out of space, and that's very easy to do because you're gonna lose a lot of time not giving the car on the outside space, right? But yeah, we get through the last corner, and Chris, you can take it from me. Here we go.
Sorry, yeah, we've still got a couple of corners left to go. I think that what you're saying is true of that whole series of corners through from Senior, Beausset, all the way through to this part of the track. It's wide and it's fast, but there really is only one line. And then there's this long left-hander, Virage de la Tour, into the final hard braking zone, into DuPont, the final corner. And you've got to get that line right onto the start-finish straight. Just this is such a technical little corner to get right. We saw James Baldwin starting from pole on the left side last time. Absolutely nailed the start. Perfect. Luke Whitehead alongside him on the other side. What can he do? We've seen tyre warming. We've seen braking. We've seen accelerating. Now all we have is to wait for the green lights. And they go. It's difficult to tell at this stage, but it looks like James Baldwin's got away cleanly. He's moving over a little bit more than he was straight away last time, left a lot of room. In fact, Luke Whitehead pushing him a little bit, forcing Baldwin to go a little bit towards the centre of the track. And, that is a big drop. And lucky that, I spoke far too soon. Was about to say lucky that didn't end up in a 10-pin bowling incident there. But whoever that was managed to have a second bite at the cherry and go straight back into the pack.
And that is the chaos that I did not expect was going to happen. Luckily, there was only 2 cars that were actually within that fight and within that little bit of chaos that was happening there in the first 2 turns. Now, we have Boothby coming through the field already in P5, I believe, at the moment, already making up a couple of positions. So let's see what is going to happen here. There's going to be, Slipstream is going to be a huge part, and the cars or the drivers that have opted to go for a very low downforce setup on the cars are going to be able to get just an extra bit of slipstream to go and make that move on this long straight, because of course, as we're driving GT cars, there won't be a chicane there. Basically, we're going straight onto the next turn. Now, as Boothby is going to try and defend, he will keep the outside, however, moves to the inside to just about cover him off. And that is going to be close with, we saw Miyato trying to look. However, he decided to mess up it, and a lot of cars going wide there then.
I'm not surprised to see the chaos down at Senior in the background there. In the back edge of the top 10, we saw several drivers going very hard to the inside of the track for what is one of the fastest corners on the calendar. It was only going to end with massive off track through Senior, although it looks like somehow everyone survived the madness there. Page, one of those drivers, still clinging onto the outskirts of the top 10 and has some work to do, as we see Cavello Costa came a cropper. That's a strange place to find himself there. Actually, you don't normally see cars go off there. He's obviously had contact, judging by the damage on the front, as we see Matthew Bouquet, the stand-in driver, in the thick of it, onto lap 2.
3 positions gained for Bouquet right here. So, yeah, it's a decent start for him there then. Oh, and in the back we have a big issue. A big crash in the back. I'm not sure who it is. It is going to be Trancanelli, who has been fighting for top positions as well at the start of round 1. But this time around, it wasn't really his event. With Jean Blanc at the moment in P12 and trying to see if he can profit from those cars battling in front. And you can definitely see them being super close. This is going to be crucial here. As now, a little bit of a moment, and it is going to be the car of Nicolet trying to mount the attack. Now, in doing so, he will not have the traction, and Bouquet, as we've just been talking about it, he loses the car.
Total commentator's curse moment there, Thom.
Oh no!
Just congratulating him for the excellent work he put in on the first lap, and unfortunately it all falling apart. This is an interesting fight. We've got Miato's now disconnected a little bit from Boothby. We saw them fighting on the first lap, coming under pressure now from Kun, who's recovering. Look at that, Luke Whitehead 3/10 behind Baldwin. I suggested that his best job was to stick with him and see what he could do later in the race, but Whitehead, an experienced sim racer and an experienced kart driver as well, with multiple wins and championships to his name, definitely going for taking the battle to Baldwin early on, as once again that edges of the top 10 scrap looking pretty spicy, Thom.
I was completely wrong about them not wanting to fight too much at the start. Oh no! What happened here? Aren't we tangled up with the car of Bergara once again as he goes back into the pits, and look at that! It is Kun who is now up at the P7, and as he started P9, we are seeing some drivers that have not really shown what they're made of in the first race now actually shine through, as we currently have the fastest lap for Miato. So we don't really see at the front of the grid the domination that we've seen in the first race, and it's still Whitehead who is only 4.5 tenths separated with James Baldwin. So now James will have a little bit of a task on his hand, and he can't really manage the race. From now he has 20 minutes to try and keep Whitehead behind and hope to make that gap bigger and bigger. But Miato, at the moment, who we are on board with, is currently holding the fastest laps, which means he is the quickest car on track. So let's see what he can do here compared to Boothby, who's also made up a couple of positions and up into P5 now. So Boothby trying to bounce back in the championship. Do you think, after the event that he's had so far, Chris, that Boothby is still going to be able to be in the championship here? Because of course, going into today's race, or today's event, he was P3, only 4 points separated with James Baldwin.
He had a bit of a nightmare in the sprint race. As we'd mentioned before, he is carrying an illness, so doing his best to mitigate that situation. But once again, Miato may well have set the fastest lap, but it hasn't stopped him being under pressure.
And here we have the replay
from behind. This is what happened at the start-finish race. We saw the driver dive into the pits, and oh wow, that's. Ooh. Oh, that's you do not want to see. I didn't see who the driver that was hit was, but they had no business moving across the track away from racing speed. That's absolutely disgraceful. And yeah, go and lynch him. No, don't do that. That's very unprofessional. Don't say things like that, Chris. We don't want to see things like that in sim racing. There's no harm that happens here. Everyone walks away safely. But as someone who spends a little bit of time in real cars, that makes me wince watching that kind of thing.
Oh my, yeah, that was, as we actually look at another replay here then, I believe this was a big, oh yes, there we go. So that was...
Is that a revenge incident right there, or is that me putting 2 and 2 together? That was certainly a very strange rejoin to see.
Yeah, it was. Let's hope. It was
anyway, back to something more positive. We've got
exactly.
James Baldwin set another fastest lap. Imagine such a thing.
In the meantime, though, look at that P17, Isaac Gillison. I told you, is he gonna go and try and go from the back of the grid to the top 10? Do you think from here it's possible? Because we have 18 minutes left, right?
Well, I mean, it's very difficult to write the man off after coming forward. What's that? 13 positions he's gained in 12 minutes. So. Yeah, and it looks like the pack in front of him is fairly densely populated. So, a driver of that experience, yeah, sure, maybe he'll get a podium at this rate.
Oh yeah, that would be great. Now we also saw just shortly Ollie Caldwell, unfortunately, in the pits. So Ollie Caldwell not gonna be able to do what he wanted to do, as he said in the interview, and try and gain a couple more positions. But he already did a very good race in the qualifying or in the sprint race, I mean. So perhaps he's gonna feel like there's unfinished business and wanting to go and participate in perhaps a future event. Who knows? Who knows?
Gael Valero under a bit of pressure there. JV, as he's known from Calderino. little bit of a slide through senior corner. Looks very tidy through Beausset, the long double right-hander. Very tricky technical corner that. So if you keep the car planted, you're in good stead. Sadly, still only a 10th up on Calderino. That's going to be something that continues. Speaking of something that continues, is this battle that we've been seeing between Miato, Romagnoli, Kun, and well, everyone else back to about P14 at this stage. It is busy, and we're seeing Page looking like he might be able to make a move up into P8. It's a slow progress on this recovery drive for him.
For sure. And you can see him just looking around, trying to find a space and the positioning of this car, the mountain attack. But it's not quite working for him yet. So perhaps he has to be cautious. He has to be able to wait a little bit to be able to position the car. And then go for a move, maybe a little bit of a smarter position, which would be ideal, because this will be the crucial traction zone all the way up until one of the longest straights of the track, actually the longest straight of the track, and this will be a drag race all the way through to the next turn, with about 5 tenths in between both Pejic and Czarnecki. I think this will be maybe a little bit too big of a gap to put it alongside here, but who knows?
Well,
maybe
anything's possible on the Mistral Straight. If it's going to happen anywhere, it's either going to be here or on runway 4 at Heathrow. There's about the same length as Czarnecki feeling the need to go defensive, and he's right to. Can Payich run round the outside of senior corner? They're side by side. Lots of respect, plenty of room given there, and Payich forced to now go around the outside of Beausset, which is much harder to do. The space is going to run out. The only chance he's got now is if he can get a tighter run on the run down to the left-hander, and sadly not getting the move done. Victor Nicolai battling behind with a pretty much identical situation, although slightly less clean, much less clean, Tom.
Ooh, and there was a little bit of a tap, but actually it was Nicolai who kept it on the track. Very skillful, because you saw him already lose the car. And with these cars, if you start sliding, it's very hard to actually be able to keep the car under control. Now, in sliding the car around, it is actually going to be the Mobius car trying to go for the overtake. And now he's defending with all his teeth out. It's Nicolai in P13, but in having that slide, in getting that tap from Hizing, it's not going to be very positive for him, because now he just has to look behind, and that gap with the car who has just hit him is going to be starting to get bigger and bigger. So maybe there's some frustration going on in the head of Nicolai now.
Oh, I suspect there's more than a little bit. Tom, every time we seem to look at Victor Nicolai, it's because someone's hit him or because someone's run him out off the edge of the track. He may well be the unluckiest man in esports from the sampling I've seen. Now, that might be a bit of a sampling bias on my part, as we see Payich once again in the pound seats behind Czarnecki. He's closer this time around. Can he get the move done earlier on the Mistral Straight and not have to run around the outside? In fact, we see Czarnecki already going defensive, already positioning the car on the right-hand side of the straight. He knows that's his only chance to stay ahead, but I fear for him that Payich is closer this time around. He's staying deep in the slipstream. Running out of straight. He is round the outside. He is just a tiny bit further over. Czarnecki further on the inside this time, and Payich gets the move done. Excellent, beautiful work. It was just that little extra meter he had to play with, allowed him to just run back onto the racing line and absolutely swoop towards the apex, leave a car's width, and carry all that speed through on the run to Beausset in P8, finally in P8.
The levels of respect between these two drivers, being able to go through that turn and give each other enough space for 2 laps in a row. I love seeing that, I really do. Honestly, I would rather go down in a fight knowing that we had a good battle and we were fair and clean, rather than leaving the other out of space. And that's exactly how these guys have been racing for the last 2 laps, and it's beautiful to see, honestly. Now, in the meantime, we saw Miato go and make a move on Bootby, who was actually in P4 a couple of laps ago. So Bootby is still very close to Miato, but he's on the other side right now, and on the attacking side again, right here on Miato. In the meantime, we have Isaac Gillison as well, up all the way up into P15 already. So he's made 15 positions at the very least, because there were 34 drivers. With him starting at the back, that means he's made 19 positions in this race so far. As we're on board with Isaac Gillison right now, you can see the face of focus on his face right now as he closes in to the next victim. Right? I think you can see it like that. The next victim.
I think you have to see it like that. This is a serial killer out there, isn't it? He's been what's that? Two overtakes a lap on average. The man is absolutely hunting Alpines, eating them for breakfast. Look, he's not even going to need the Mistral straight to get this move done. He'll be on his way towards Victor Nicolai in P13 by the time he turns into senior. This is an incredibly strong drive, and it's beautiful to watch. The danger here, of course, is getting the move done that early, is that Rodriguez can potentially drop back in behind, pick up the slipstream again, and then challenge down into senior. But he's still there. Wow, moving out the slipstream has sort of hurt Gillison's chances, actually sort of killed the momentum. As we see Rodriguez run very, very, very wide. Feel the need to go defensive into Beausset offline, but it's, as we've seen, it's nigh on impossible to run round the outside of that long double apex corner. But wow, Gillison just looks so much quicker at this stage.
Yeah, and perhaps he's even focused a little bit more on the cornering speed here, because it does seem like, I mean, like you said, he went out of the slipstream very early, but it does seem like, yeah, he's very quick in the corners here then. Look, he's already trying to go around the outside once again. Now, if you are looking on the screen, you can see this, the POAP NFT. You can scan it with your mobile phone, and then you can go and get one right here, right now. So make sure you do. You do not want to miss out. We have a beautiful, beautiful switchback from or on Gillison here, and he has to go and get back into the slipstream. But oh my goodness, did we expect that?
It was a wonderful move by Gillison around the outside into Virage de la Tour. Unfortunately, Virage du Pont is such a tight corner that going in that deep is always going to leave you at risk of the switchback. Rodriguez saw what was going to happen there, saw the writing on the wall, and did everything he needed to do. A perfect bit of defensive driving there.
And he's going to have to do more. He's going to have to do more, because Gillison is all over the back of Rodriguez. Now, though, will Gillison make the same mistake? No, look at that. He's doing different lines. Gillison taking different lines so that he can get a better exit and carry more speed onto the straight, so that he doesn't necessarily have to go and rely onto that slipstream that he's going to get, right? Because he relied too much on the slipstream last lap around, and he didn't really have the slipstream for too long, and he pulled off a little bit too early, and then we had Rodriguez side by side all the way throughout there. We are currently on board with Arduini, trying to close in on Pagano. However, he does have a little bit of a penalty, so that penalty will be added at the end of the race.
Yeah, we saw the contact earlier with Bagheera, I think it was, wasn't it? We saw one of them facing backwards and then teleporting to the pits as Gillison round the outside this time. Seems a little bit closer, but he's still going to have to run around the outside of Beausset once again. Oh, beautiful switchback, and puts the car exactly where it needs to be, and that's going to be very hard for Rodriguez to come back from. We saw that move coming for the last couple of laps. Rodriguez did absolutely everything he could, but there's only so far you can go when you end up going defensive every other corner for all the way through the lap.
Yes, and there has been a little bit of a mistake from Jean Blanc, which actually promotes Nowakowski into the top 10. So Jean Blanc maybe lost it on his own or not. Perhaps we're going to see a replay later on, but he's currently in P11 and he has to come back at it. But in doing so, Nicolai at the moment is going to be in a prime position to go and overtake Nowakowski here, or Jean Blanc.
Yeah, as I said, both of those drivers, we're going to see a replay of what happened there, I think. On the outside of Beausset, which is certainly a place where bad things can happen to you with other cars, but it looks like he may... Did he drop it on his own, or is it a very hopeful lunge down? And it is. That's door is always going to close there. And that was a very optimistic move, and you can't put too much blame on the car that turned in there, because Fabien Jeanblanc was a long way behind.
Yeah, but you know what it is? That turn is so treacherous because the apex comes a little bit later into the turn. You can use the curb on the inside all the way throughout. But the quickest line, the racing line, is to go wider and then cut to the inside. But in doing so, you show a little bit of a gap to the car behind. And we know, once there is a gap, they go for it. But that gap is very treacherous. And I'm surprised this was the first time, actually, in this race. We've seen a little bit of tangling up in that corner.
Yeah, very much so. That's an absolute classic spot for us. We see Arduini once again in the slipstream, battling his way back from the earlier incident. He's going to try and go on the inside of Senior. Thinks wisely backs out of it as car in front of Spotto getting quite the swapper on midway through the corner. Gathers it up well and didn't lose a lot of momentum, but that was probably increased the heart rate a few BPM there, Thom.
Oh, for sure. I love seeing these cars drift around the corners. Now, it's the handling of these cars that make them so much fun. Now, I'm probably not the best driver of the Alpine A110 cars because I love drifting them around, you know. And it's not as fast, but it's just so much fun. I don't know. I feel like some of these drivers are probably, even though it's not going to be good for their tire wear and stuff, they're probably still enjoying throwing those cars in and just rolling with it and seeing where it's going to go.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big advantages of a one-make series that's in a car that's actually fun to drive. There are plenty of very planted, dull cars that are in manufacturers' one-make cups across the motorsport world, but this is not one of them. This is it's just a very lively car that moves around a lot underneath you and rewards a bit of driver input. So I'm sure that everyone out there is having a bit of fun driving the car, although some may be letting the frustrations of everything else get in the way. Gillison now not making much of an input towards Horsig, not dropping back, but not closing the gap as much as we'd hoped. So that P10 that you predicted almost prophetically at the beginning of the session, not there. As this is a beautiful camera angle watching Jean Blanc having to see the car of Horsig just grow wider and wider in the mirrors as they go into senior corner. Horsig quite a long way back. We've seen it's very difficult to make a move stick from back there, and decides very wisely not to try it and then try and run around the outside of Beausset. Another place that's very difficult to do. It gets the switchback, as we saw a couple of laps ago from Gillison. That's definitely the way to do it, and Fabien Jean Blanc loses out, but does have the high ground on the inside into Bendar corner, which that's where we saw him hit the other car a couple of laps ago, as he in turn gets a tap from Horsig. It's still pretty busy out there.
It's definitely busy, and I was expecting a little bit of a similar moment there then, compared to what we saw earlier in that corner where that apex is a little bit weird, a little bit late. But it wasn't actually that. It was Jean Blanc keeping the inside for a long time there, going over the curbs, and it was actually Horsig trying to go later, deeper, and then carry the speed. But it was Jean Blanc parking it on the exit, and they flipping touched. In the meantime, claim your Alpine airdrop. The QR code is on the screen. Get your phone, scan it. You do not want to miss out. I'm telling you right now. Make sure you do so. Now, you told me about Gillison and being in P14, but I see him as provisional P12 because look, it is Nicolet as well as Nowakowski who currently have penalties. So if he overtakes both Jean Blanc and the car of Horsig, who have been battling for a while, you can see now he's there.
2-second gap they had is now a half a second gap. So yeah, very prophetic, Thom. I have to hand it to you. It feels like this is the real story of the race.
I know the script.
Right
I know the
now
script.
is whether you're going to be picking everybody's lottery numbers going forward, because as you say, Gillison has joined this fight between Jean Blanc and Horsig, who have, it's fair to say, been losing a heap load of time fighting each other and trading positions over the last few laps, as Horsey looking very, very untidy on the way into senior corner, which is not a place you want to have the car unsettled. In fact, running very wide into Beausset may already be under pressure from Gillison, who finds some space on the inside. Does the door get closed on him? It doesn't. There was just enough room to stay there. Gillison's going to have to do a very good job to run around the outside here, but in fact gets the move done on the brakes before the corner. I didn't see that coming. That was actually far easier than it looked like it was going to be. As we continue along with this battle, Tom.
Now this is going to be very interesting here, because we're seeing a battle between Miato and Budby, and this is going to be for a crucial position, P4, and that is a lot of points. P4, of course, gaining equally as much points as you would get of winning the sprint race, right?
Well,
so
that is
very
the
close.
battle for fourth in the championship at the moment, and fourth on the track. So key critical stuff here between Miato and Boothby, as it is perhaps less critical with Gillison and Jean Blanc and the like, who are really just there for the bragging rights. Gillison in particular, who will only be doing this round, can go home, hang his hat up at the end of the day and forget all about this if he wants to. But I suspect with 20 odd overtakes done by the end of the day, he won't forget too quickly.
For sure. And of course in the P12 spot as well, they're battling for the last championship point, which could be crucial at the end of the season. So Jean Blanc at the moment holding that last championship points after penalties are deducted, of course, or added, with Nowakowski on 10 seconds and Nicolay on 5 seconds. So
it's just Boothby and Miato touch on the straight as he dived out of the slipstream there. That's incredibly unusual to see. That's a bit of a misjudgment there. Hopefully neither car's picked up too much damage from that. These GT4s do seem to be able to survive, be a bit less sensitive to the damage than the GT3s in ACC, but neither driver will want to be carrying anything, and I think Miato will rightly be a bit upset as to why that contact occurred on a straight where it probably shouldn't be happening, Tom.
There might be 2 more laps here as James Baldwin. I'm not sure if he's gone over the line yet, but we have 5 seconds left in this race. Let's see, once James Baldwin goes over the line.
He's backed off, I think, and it does have one more lap to go. No, he got through, didn't he?
I think so.
Still one more lap. No, didn't play any games there. He had the time in hand to do it. I think just the little bit of lag in the response to the camera switch there made it look like he had gone across the line, but the start-finish line was a little bit earlier there. So Miato has to do one more lap as Boothby flashing from behind him. That's not really going to change anything. Miato very aware that he's there, got a tap on the previous lap and has been having to go defensive for the last few. And all of this fighting's brought Romagnoli and Kun in, and Pajic, who are all fighting on track behind. None of these positions from 4 down to P8 are secure at this stage, as we see the scrap. This is the important one for the championship, but the one behind seems even fiercer. Miato not far enough ahead. Boothby's going to have a great run down here into senior corner, Tom.
It's gonna get very, very, very close, because this is the crucial lap 000 on the clock, which means the drivers will feel the pressure. Now, Miato is gonna defend the inside, which is something we've seen in the past. However, he can't keep it there, and it's Boothby who overtakes him just about then, before the braking zone. Miato has to come back then before the last and final start. Yeah, we see a very, very hard defensive zone there by Kun and Romagnoli involved in that fight too, as well as
that's Marco Pajic. So we saw Pajic get the move done. That's critical again. Moves up to P7 right at the dying moments. Had to go almost off the track to make the move stick, but that matters immensely. Boothby doing a great job getting past Miato, positioning the car defensively into senior corner, but right at the front, James Baldwin's done everything he needs to do today. 2 commanding wins from the front. Luke Whitehead challenged him early on, but just didn't have enough to stay with him. Great recovery from Luke today, who puts himself in a much stronger position to contend for the championship and those high points paying positions, as Marco Pajic isn't done yet. Tries to throw it round the outside, but not quite enough left in the tank. Wow, that was a busy end to that race there, Thom.
For sure. And I can see somebody's actually going off the track just about still in the last and final couple of turns as well, as we're on board with Dorsch. But I'm looking actually at the top 10 position.
I knew you would be, Thom. I saw it as well. Look at that. Gillison got past, pausing in the end there while we were watching the scraps of the championship positions. And even without that, with the penalty that's been picked up, he would have made the top 10. 24 positions gained, far more importantly, proven that you are a soothsayer. You are a reader of tea leaves. You are divining the results out of the ground, and I will definitely be consulting you when I next purchase a lottery ticket, Thom. Great work.
Yeah, if you want to predict your future, then my DMs are open. Now, what a race that was done. It had it all, really. It had it all. I suspected a slow start, but we had literally gotten the exact opposite. It was not a slow start whatsoever. And it was not a slow end either. They went all out from start to finish. With James Baldwin finishing off in P1, Luke Whitehead P2, and Nerby P3. We haven't really seen a lot of the top 3 in this race, but in the midfield, especially close behind in P4, P5, we've seen a crucial move in the last lap, because Boothby was in that P4 spot for a little while, but then dropped down behind of Miyato. Maybe it was a strategy. Maybe it was a strategy to let Miyato do the hard work, right? Punching the air, and then at the end, in the last and final lap, getting past. I mean, it wasn't that easy, of course, but perhaps it was in his mind. Maybe I should do this.
Maybe. I wouldn't like to speculate on that, but Boothby doing an excellent job, and he really needed to after a tough sprint race in the rain. Good recovery drive as well. So really, I think I wouldn't like to, if you had to ask me who the driver of the race for me was, I wouldn't like to pick one. There were several absolute standout drives. I think Baldwin at the front did a fantastic job. Luke Whitehead, after a challenging first round at Barcelona, has done an excellent job today. Nerby's kept it clean behind them, kept out of trouble. Boothby recovering excellently. And then Payich having a nice little recovery drive at the end, but perhaps not doing as much as he'd like. And then, of course, there's the likes of Gillison, who came from absolutely nowhere. I'm not sure if that graphic actually includes the time penalties, if they've been applied to that yet for those in P9 and 10. So I'm not sure that's 100% accurate. We are, in fact, these are the provisional results, so they're not entirely accurate. So obviously, we would be seeing Isaac Gillison there in P10, but otherwise perfect. So we are just going to throw to an advert quickly, and we will be right back.
So I've been racing in Formula One since 2016. So that's 1.5, 2, 3, 6 years. Ça fait pas 6 years, attends. Ça fait combien de years? Ça fait trop là. Il y a une demi-année 2016, 17, 18, pas 19, 20, 21,
22. Je l'ai accorsé 6 ans et demi. C'est bon.
5 et demi?
C'est bon.
Ouais, 5 et demi. Bon bah ok.
2022, on est en 2022.
Ok. I do love most things about Formula One. I mean, Formula One is my dream, was my dream. It's now my job, and yeah, I enjoy every day being, at the wheel of a great racing car. I won my first race in Hungary in 2021. My favorite circuits, I have two. So one of them is Suzuka, and the second one is Budapest. Binance joined BWT Alpine F1 team in February 2022. Binance fan tokens are utility tokens that give token holders special benefits and privilege with team and brand. It enables the team and the brand to grow their fan community and reward their supporters. It can enable holders to participate in engagement, voting polls on team's decision, access to limited edition NFTs, purchase items from the fan shop, and participate in Alpine F1 team's fan token activities like trading, competition, and access to tickets and merchandising. NFTs are non-fungible tokens, a digital asset that represents a real-world object like art, music, or game assets and videos. So that will be Hungary, USA, Monaco, France, and Qatar. BNB stands for Built and Built.
So a race with quite a lot happening, I think would be the mild way to put it. What we did see, though, was some really good, fair, clean racing between several drivers, all through that sort of P4 through P10 group, maybe even a little bit further down. Lots of side-by-side action and lots of respect being given by drivers. But there's a contrast to that. We saw a couple of very desperate moves, very late moves that maybe weren't, you wouldn't call them dirty, you wouldn't call them, unfair. But here's the question to you, Thom, as a driver. When everything's on the line like this, do you feel that you sometimes just have to try something? When you've been stuck behind someone and the time is running down, do you feel that you just have to poke a nose up the inside into a gap that might close just to see what happens?
Now, it's very interesting what happens in mentally, right, with these guys. Knowing that the championship is 3 rounds long, knowing that the championship actually has $100,000 of Alpine fan token on the line, knowing that this championship has even more prizes on the line, including like a live drive, right? And more prizes. So that's also going to play into their minds. Even though when they're racing, they're not going to think like, oh no, I'm losing with this move I'm doing, I'm losing this amount of prize money or whatever. But they do know that it being round 2, there will be a point where you have to score points, because if you don't do it now, you only have one more round. So there is a sense of, if I don't do it now, I only have one more round to recover. And there's a lot on the line. So the more there's on the line, the more perhaps they're going to start feeling pressured, because they want it so badly. Of course, if I was racing for this prize pool, I would also be trying to be on top of my game. And the practice they put in, the more practice they put in, the more they want to perform as well. Because, you're putting time in, you don't want to do it for nothing, right? So, no, I feel like... Definitely, that's going to be something to play onto their mind as well.
Yeah, so as you say, a lot on the line, and you do get emotionally invested in the outcomes as well. And we will discuss more of that in a moment.
Le but de ce partenariat est d'accompagner les joueurs, de créer de l'immersion et du bien-être. Donc quand je parle d'immersion avec Philips Hue et les lumières connectées, on peut synchroniser ses lumières avec son jeu. L'intérêt de Philips Hue pour le bien-être des joueurs est d'arriver à une meilleure performance. C'est-à-dire du matin jusqu'au soir, la bonne lumière au bon moment amène à plus de performance.
So I think the main talking point for us to pick up on is how the championship has developed. I think we all know what's happened in P1, but everything solidifying behind that. James Baldwin at the top with almost a whole win ahead, a whole main race win, let alone a sprint race win, looking almost untouchable now, followed by Luke Whitehead, who started today in 5th place in the championship, has really done an excellent job of overhauling Boothby, Payich and Miato. Miato being pretty steady throughout the day, but Boothby having a bit of a struggle dealing with illness, and Payich just not being able to get it together, fighting at the outskirts of the top 10 for most of the day after 2 strong P2 performances in Barcelona. Thom, if you're in that top 5, it still looks, or maybe even top 6, it still looks like as everything to play for behind James. How do you approach the rest of the season?
I feel like James can probably take it. I definitely not take it easy, but he can be more comfortable going into the last race. But from P2 to P5, that is also where the big places and the big prizes are about to be found. That is where it's going to be the most pressured, going into the last race, especially knowing that we don't even know which race we're going to have. For which, by the way, you can go and vote on the Alpine Racing Twitter on which track it will be. Now, the races that we will have are, for example, Nürburgring or Silverstone or Hungaroring. So let's see. I mean, I kind of want to know. I feel like if the drivers in P2, 3, 4, 5 would be tactical, they would choose the track that James was the worst at, right?
Well, there you go. He's a British GT driver, so he probably knows his way around Silverstone. I imagine he knows his way around all of them, really. But,
yeah.
Whichever one is geographically furthest from Silverstone, which would be Hungaroring, which was my pick. So I think we have to go there. Interesting point for Baldwin is that he only needs to pick up 11 points over the 2 sprint races at whatever track that's going to be to secure that win. That's a very strong position to be in. I mean, 11 points would be what's that? He could finish 6th in both the sprint and the main race and do enough, and that would require Luke Whitehead to win both races for him to have to finish that high. So dominant performance by James Baldwin today has put himself very much in contention, long beyond being the man to beat. Now he would have to have a very bad round at whatever track you vote for to do anything other than waltz to victory, I think, Tom.
For sure. Now, I'm really interested to see which track will be voted on. Now, make sure you go and get yourself voting on the track. I'll be doing so as well, but I'll be one of many who will be voting. I'm not going to say which one I'm going to vote for, though, so make sure you vote. But I guess that actually brings us to an end for the Alpine Esports Series Round 2 in Paul Ricard, the second out of 3 races. And it has been a cracker. I feel like from here we've just gone from very good to even better here in the second race, right, Chris?
Yeah, it's very strange to say it for the second year in a row. But once again, Paul Ricard has delivered. I think gets a bad rep as a track. It always seems to produce great racing in these Alpine GT4 cars. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our sponsors for all the support for the stream. Freem, Phillips, BenQ, Shamir, Track Racer, and of course Binance, who have put together that massive prize pool, who it looks like James Baldwin is going to be buying all the drinks next time any of us see him, who's running away at the front. I guess then in that case, Tom, that's all of the business wrapped up here in what has been a pretty exciting evening's racing at Paul Ricard.
For sure. Merci for watching, and we'll see you very soon for round 3. Around whichever track you vote for. Round 3. Exactly.